created when putting this list together that you guys should be aware of, so the list will make a little bit more sense in the long run. First off, this list is not specifically based on power or strength. However, power and strength are a key factor in deciding where the Shikai will place on the list. Because if the Shikai in question doesn't necessarily have a lot of strength on its side, it may still be able to place highly on the list if it has some other overwhelming traits. So this list is by no means the top 10 strongest Shikai. Instead, it is a list comprised of the very best Shikai in terms of strength and power, useful abilities, uniqueness, and how effective it can be under different circumstances. So if you came here for power alone, you're in the wrong place. Secondly, there are a ton of different Shikai in Bleach, which is part of the reason this video took so long to come out, aside from me just being lazy. But because there are just so many Shikai, I had to make sure to double check all of them, along with compare and contrast until I finally found what I believe to be the 10 best Shikai in the series. This of course means that many of the Shikai you might expect to see on this list might not make an appearance, and that's simply because there are just too many good ones to choose from. I can assure you that narrowing it down to 10 was very hard for me to do. Thirdly, the format of this video is going to be something along the lines of, I'll explain what the Shikai is and what it does, and any additional ability to start with, and then I'll be giving my personal opinion on why the Shikai is placed where it is on the list, which can easily result in repeating myself a few times just to get what points I'm referring to across, so just be aware of that ahead of time. And finally, this video is solely based on my own opinions, just like every top 10 list you'll ever come across. So it's perfectly natural for you to disagree with my choices or where I placed them on this list. And if you do, make sure to comment what your list would be and why after this video is over. But even though this is opinion-based, I'm going to be backing up all of my choices with facts and comparisons. So hopefully, even if you don't necessarily agree with my choices, you'll at least be able to understand where I'm coming from with why I chose them, and why I placed them where I did. Also, I should warn you ahead of time that my pronunciations are complete and utter garbage, and I will be mispronouncing multiple names and phrases throughout this video, so you will likely be triggered if you're anal about that kind of thing. But now that you know what to expect and all the stipulations I put in place, I think it's about time we get started. So first off, I want to start with an honorable mention. And although I wanted to honorably mention quite a few, I ultimately decided on just one, which is Minazuki. This Shikai was wielded by Retsu Unohana, and the release command of Minazuki is currently unknown. When Minazuki is released, it turns into a gigantic green manta ray thing that can also fly. This manta ray can transport multiple people on its back while it flies, and responds to verbal commands from Unohana. But its main ability comes from its ability to heal others, which it does by eating the wounded individual and storing them in its stomach, where they will then be healed. From what we've seen, Minazuki is also able to heal up to 6 people at a time, and it will throw those people back up once their injuries are cured. Other than that, this Shikai doesn't really have any specific techniques. Now, there are multiple reasons why I chose this Shikai as the honorable mention. The first being that this Shikai is very unique compared to pretty much every other Shikai. Every other Shikai. The only thing I can kind of compare it to would be Mayuri's Bankai. But unlike most other Shikai where their appearance and shape change into some other weapon in one way or another, this one turns into a gigantic flying manta ray. That right there is pretty goddamn unique compared to the other Shikai if you ask me. There are of course other Shikai that have healing capabilities, such as Hanataro's Hisagomaru, so the healing aspect isn't exactly unheard of for Zanpakuto. But needless to say, compared to the other Shikai that we've seen, this one has the best healing capabilities out of all of them. not only being able to heal up to 6 people at once, but also protecting them from further harm by healing them inside the manta ray's body. The healing itself is also a pretty quick process that heals all injuries from what we've seen. And the fact that this Shikai can fly means that it can also transport multiple people great distances in a short amount of time. So in terms of support purposes, this Shikai is the best of the best. But the reason this Shikai is not on the actual list stems from the fact that it doesn't have much going on for it in terms of combat ability, which is pretty important in the world of Bleach. Now, you could argue that because of all the different support abilities this Shikai has going for it, that it is still a great contender compared to some of the others that are combat driven, which I certainly agree with. But I also gave it some more thought, and what I'm about to say next is purely hypothetical. But I feel like this gigantic manta ray could still be useful in certain combat situations. For instance, just its sheer size alone could be enough to take down weaker enemies by simply flying into them or landing on them to squash them. Or maybe it could just bite off someone's head and just kind of spit it out or something like that. Pretty easy way to take out some enemies quickly. Although I imagine its combat abilities are still very limited no matter what, and for that reason I cannot add it to this list compared to the other Shikai which did make it on the list. But the fact that this Shikai is very unique, its abilities are very useful and helpful, and it could possibly even help fight some battles hypothetically is enough for me to at least give it an honorable mention. And this one was very, very close to making it on the actual list itself. But anyways, let's get on to the actual list. Number 10. Zabimaru. This Shikai is wielded by Renji Abarai, and the release command of Zabimaru is Howl. When released, Zabimaru's blade transforms into a 6-segment, much larger blade, with 2 pick-like blades protruding on the front and back of each segment. These segments are also capable of detaching and extending seemingly without any limit, by some sort of stretchable thread between the segments, allowing this Shikai to not only act as a sword, but also as a whip. And it seems to be more useful when used in this way. So we can assume that Zabimaru's main ability would be its ability to double as a whip. But it also has one rarely used ability or technique, called Higazeko, which can be used after Zabimaru's blade segments are disconnected. And Renji then uses his spiritual power to levitate all the different blade segments high into the air, before launching them all at his target from every direction. The reason Renji rarely uses this attack is because it is basically a one-hit wonder of sorts, because after using it, Renji is left completely defenseless. And according to Renji, it is also very damaging to Zabimaru, and therefore Zabimaru can be used for some time after using this technique. Now, I could be a little bit biased with this one, but Zabimaru has always had a special place in my heart, ever since I first saw it during his first fight with Ichigo back in Karakura Town. If I recall, it was also the first Shikai we got to see in the series, but don't quote me on that. So because it was one of, if not the first Shikai we got to see, I've always considered Zabimaru the staple of what a Shikai should be like, and I always find myself comparing other Shikai to it. As you can guess, many Shikai are still way superior to this one, but there are also many that can never quite compare. Now, as this list goes on, and